Hello Vault Heads, this is the self-proclaimed, sarcastically named Captain KeyForge, also known as PJ Broughton of the Steel City Snufflegators. Welcome to the latest episode of Captain's Commpod, where this week I'm going to talk about my favourite KeyForge cards. So I've been scratching around for ideas for podcasts. I don't think I'm the only one listening to some of the other podcasts. But this idea came courtesy of a UK Discord member, Kalos, who provided some ideas. They're a listener or a watcher. They wanted to provide some ideas after I'd asked for some, so I said, well, they're always welcome. So here we go. I'm going to do one of each type of card. So first of all, we're going to look at my favourite upgrade. We're looking at that one first because out of these four cards, it's my least favourite. So first of all, my favourite upgrade, favourite upgrade card. It's number 4. Which house do you think it belongs to? Have a think about which house you think my favourite upgrade card belongs to. Okay, so my favourite upgrade card belongs to House Saurian. So now I'll give you a chance to think about the card. So which upgrade from House Saurian do you think is my favourite upgrade card within the game of KeyForge? And I will be doing this with all 4 of them to try and make it a bit more fun. Okay, so my favourite upgrade is the Calipigian Ideal. So read that card for you. Obviously, it's an upgrade. It says, play, exalt this creature. This creature gains, you may spend amber on this creature as if it were in your pool. Okay, so I mean, obviously, this is a competitive card. It is a fun card as well, but it is a competitive card. Equally, I like the design choices within it because there's an element of risk reward. There are plenty of cards in Saurian that allow you to capture or allow you to put an amber on a creature if you gain extra amber from reaping. The idea of Saurian is you get a benefit from putting amber onto your own creatures, and the risk reward of it is you get the benefit, but if your opponent kills the creature, they get the amber. Like this one, there's a real good incentive for having a lot of amber on this creature because of this upgrade, but obviously the reward, the risk of that is that if your opponent destroys the creature, they get the amber back. So I like it because of the way it works. I like it because of the way it's designed. I also like it because, as a lot of people would say about Worlds Collide, which is the set this is from, there's hardly any risk with Saurian. What risk? With cards like Imperial Scutum, with cards like Prefectus Ludo, there are an awful lot of ways to effectively ensure that your opponent never sees this amber anyway. I mean, this is one of the ways to get rid of amber that you place on a creature in Worlds Collide. Spend it with Calipigian Ideal, but couple this with Imperial Scutum, and I have got decks that have got both in. I've seen decks with both in. Unless they can return the card to deck, hand, or purge it, then they can't get the amber off it because of Imperial Scutum. If Prefectus Ludo's down next to it, they've got to kill the Ludo first before they get it back. Yes, I like it a lot because it's strong, because I like the design choice. I also like the fact that in Worlds Collide, there are also ways to protect the Emperor and make sure your opponent doesn't see it back. Maybe a little bit stronger than it possibly ought to should be. Although I don't think it'll ever get an errata. I think it's always going to stay the way it is. But that's the first card we're going to talk about, my favourite upgrade, and it is the Calipigian Ideal. So next we are going to talk about my card number 3, my favourite card number 3, and it's my favourite artifact. So again, there's a creature and an action that I prefer over this, but this is my favourite artifact in the game. So which house do you think my favourite artifact from the game comes from? You've got a few seconds. Pause it if you want. Which house? Well, my favourite artifact comes from House Logos. Okay, so with that in mind, which Logos artifact do you think is my favourite artifact in the game? So again, have a think. You've got a moment. You can pause it if you want to. So yeah, which artifact, Logos artifact, do you think is my favourite in the game? And it is Universal Recycle Bin, which is a Logos artifact with an amber pip, and it says, action, archive a purged card that you own. Okay, so why do I like this one? Well, for starters, it's the only card in the game that does what it does. So there are plenty of cards in the game that steal, plenty of cards in the game that destroy, plenty of cards that return a creature to hand, deck, archive, whatever. This is the only card in the game that will allow you to pull a purged card back into play. So if you purge one of my cards, I will never get it back in any way, shape, or form in this game unless I have this card. So that's one of the reasons why I like it. I do have a deck with this card in it, and it's fun to play. Also, as well, I think it is fun to play. I've heard people say they don't like it because they don't think it's strong enough. It takes too long to work because you use an action, it goes into your archive. You then cannot use the card on the same turn that you've reclaimed it, that you've got it back out of your purge card. That's true. I agree. I think it might be a little bit too strong if it was returning them to your hand. You know, action, return a purge card to your hand. That would be really strong. I feel this card is actually really quite strong as it is. I feel it's undervalued. And then if you're going to pair this, like, to be honest, like in my deck that I have it, with discards that allow you to purge, discards that allow you to purge from your own deck and possibly negatively impact your opponent while you do it, like, say, Infernus. My deck with this in it's got 2 copies of Infernus and Not Finished With You. So, yeah. It's also got Ed-Eye in, which this pairs well with because it's putting cards into your archive. I just really like it. Yes, it could be better, but that's probably a good thing because, again, do we need everything to be broken good like Infernus is? Infernus is too good a card, to be honest. Not that I don't play because I do, but it's very, very good. It's very good. I do. I really like this. Like the design. It's the only card in the game that allows you to do it. And yeah, because of that, it's easily my favourite artifact in the game. Also, as well, it doesn't negatively impact your opponent too much. So yeah. So next, we've got my favourite action. So, what is my favourite action? What house is it? So first of all, do what house is it? So you got a moment to think about it, pause it, stop it, whatever. But yeah, what house do you think my favourite action is going to come from in KeyForge? So it is from House Shadows. Okay, so my favourite action is a Shadows card. So the next question is, what do you think my favourite action is if it's a Shadows card? Again, have a think, have a guess, take your pick. I do think that if you watch my channel or listen to my podcast or watch the games I play, you probably know. This one I think is the easiest to guess out of all 4 of them. And it is Too Much to Protect, which is Shadows action with an Amber Pip. And it reads, steal all but 6 of your opponent's Amber. Okay, so why do I like it? Well, I mean, that's obvious. So for starters, it's one of the few scaling Amber control cards in the game. Now, there are quite a few, actually, to be fair, when you think about it, including when you take into account ones that make your opponent lose Amber or when capture Amber from your opponent and stuff like that. So there are actually more than you think. But this is, for me, the most impactful one. And it's also the most impactful one when it's even sat in your deck. It doesn't even need to be in your hand. If you haven't played it, this is a permanent threat. If you haven't played this card, but your opponent's seen it in your deck, this and Interdimensional Graft as well. But this one, they essentially cannot go much above sort of 8 or 9 Ember. And if you've got something else like Lash of Broken Dreams or Proclamation, the Sanctum card that increases key cost by 2, anything that forces your opponent to have to go above the 6, then when it couples with this, they can't forge because they're going to have to go above 6 anyway to be able to forge. But you can stop, you can just steal underneath it. Equally, they can't go really big. You can't really go to 9, 10, 11 when someone's got this in their deck, because if you haven't got a way to deal with their large amber burst, if you haven't got scaling amber control yourself, you can just outright lose the game. I've played a game on stream where my opponent had interdimensional graph, not this, but essentially the same principle. I had no scaling amber control in the deck, and I love the deck. It's my favourite mass mutation deck, but it's got no scaling amber control. If you steal 6 from me, you've won the game. So if you hit me with this or interdimensional graph and steal 6, you've won. So it's not just that I like how powerful it is. It's not just it's a very important scaling amber control card. It's the threat of it. It just sits there in your deck, just permanently threatening your opponent. I dare you. I dare you to go above 6. I dare you to check and find out and try and fish for my too much to protect. And you might be able to go big and get away with it, but are you brave enough to do it? So yeah. That brings me to my favourite creature card, which of all the cards in the list is actually my favourite card. So it's also then arguably my favourite card in KeyForge. And you know what it probably is? It's the only card, this will give you a clue, that I've bought a mat for. So what house does my favourite creature belong to? What do you think it is? Well, it's House Untamed. So that's what it belongs to. So which untamed creature then do you think is my favourite creature in the game? In the deck that I've played most streams with on my channel. So there we go. Well, it is Niflkong. So Niflkong is my favourite creature in KeyForge. So Niflkong. Play only with the other half of Niflkong. Gigantic creature, obviously. Play, search your deck and discard pile for any number of Niffle creatures, reveal them, put them into your hand, shuffle your deck. You obviously play them on the same turn. You might play them first or second, but you obviously play them on the same turn. Then, while on the board, it's got a fight, stroke, reap ability. You may destroy a friendly Niffle creature. If you do, deal 3 damage to a creature, any creature, your opponent's or your own. Steal 1 amber and destroy an enemy artifact. So obviously you can't destroy your own artifacts. It's only give you a chance to. Why do I like it so much? It's really fun. Again, this one is really fun. I recommend getting a deck with Resurgence or Grim Reminder if you're going to get a Niflkong deck. Because if you've got a deck with this and Resurgence, chances are you'll be able to play it probably twice a game. It's just a lot of fun. It's always fun seeing the big creatures hit the board. Bring a creature that brings other creatures with it is very good. So actually, I think it's wildly underrated. I do have a deck with Ultra Gravitron, and it's not bad, and it's got the things that make it work, like Lethal Logica and Auto Encoder, stuff like that. I think this is the most fun out of all 3 of them. Possibly the most well balanced out of all 3, because I mean, capturing all your opponent's amber is very strong. Purging creatures off the board when you reap is very strong. Where, although to be fair, doing 3 damage to a creature, stealing 1 and destroying an opponent's artifact is very strong as well. But a lot of people don't seem to think it's quite as strong as the other 2. Yeah, I just my style of play is creature heavy. I've always favoured getting loads of creatures onto the board. So a creature that when I play it, essentially always brings at least another couple of creatures with it. Just really suits my play style. And equally, having something that lets me steal and destroy an opponent's artifact. Plus as well, the ability to whack your own creatures. The deck I've got this in has got an untamed creature that when it's destroyed, I steal 1 from you. But it's skirmish and it's very difficult to destroy. So being able to destroy it with my own Niflkong is great. So yeah, those are my favourite card of each type in the game of KeyForge. And why? So yeah, let me know in Discord, email, Twitter, whatever you want. What are yours? Why? If anybody agrees with any of them, maybe people will about too much to protect. Not sure about the other 3 though. So yeah, love to hear it. I will probably follow this up at some stage, maybe next week, but at some stage with my least favourite type of card, my least favourite upgrade, my least favourite creature, etc. But yeah, thank you for staying with me through another episode of Captain's Commpod. I appreciate it. I will be back as ever. Thank you to Carlos who suggested this, And to all of you, may the forge be with you.